Morning prayer that transforms. Unlock God's power today devotional to change your life. The air was electric that morning, thick with unspoken promises as the sun crested the horizon. A deep golden light poured into the room, illuminating the dusty corners where secrets were held and dreams had long been buried. It was said that if you kneel by your bedside, whispering a simple prayer and invocation into the vast unknown, miracles could unravel. Could it truly summon the supernatural? Heartbeats quickened with the thought. What if the trembling hands of the desperate found solace in those words? What if they could awaken dormant hopes like the sun awakening the world? Samantha, a weary soul, felt the weight of her life pressing down like a cold cloak. She had heard the whispers, the stories of transformation swirling among the shadows of her small town, of people rising from the ashes of despair to embrace a new life. She could almost see the flickering lights of hope in their eyes, igniting her own slowly. Could she too turn her life around with a few sincere words? The thought twisted in her mind, a bittersweet knot of anticipation and fear. Outside, the day began to unfurl with chaos. A sudden scream shattered the stillness, a wave of gasps cascading through the streets as a child fell, a bike tumbling to the uneven pavement like a wounded bird. The moment hung heavy, drawn as tight as a bowstring, and all eyes turned to the scene, hearts racing. Would anyone have the courage to intervene? The mother's face paled, her anguish painting a vivid scene of dread. Would this be her transformation moment, or would she remain trapped in helplessness? Samantha felt the tremor in her chest, a clenching pain as she recalled the prayers she had whispered in her own darkness. God, give me strength, she had pleaded, throat tight, voice breaking. What power lay behind those words? Could they really unlock a divine grace, guiding her toward the child, toward her own redemption? As she stepped into the chaotic scene, a warmth enveloped her, a strange comfort in the midst of despair. The whispers of the past echoed in her ears, rumors of prayers answered, lives changed, but was it all just smoke and mirrors? She approached the fallen child, felt the crowd's gaze like 1,000 eyes pressing against her back. In that moment, everything was heightened: the colors, the sounds, the palpable tension in the air. Seconds turned to eternity, as she knelt, trembling fingers brushing against the child's forehead. What awaited her was shrouded in mystery. The air around them crackled with an unseen force, new possibilities blending with the chaos. Could this prayer change her life? Would it stretch beyond mere words into something miraculous? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let us connect. Samantha's heart raced as her fingers grazed the child's skin, smooth yet clammy. She felt the warmth pulse beneath her touch. So fragile, so small. A wave of helplessness threatened to drown her, yet she fought against it. She couldn't back down now. The gasp of the crowd echoed in her ears, an urgent prayer in itself. Stay with me, she whispered, her voice barely a breath above the chaos. She could feel their eyes, heavy with judgment, holding their breath, waiting. The child's eyes fluttered open, pupils dilating in confusion. A glimmer of life flickered between them, but his breath came ragged and shallow. Someone screamed. It cut through Samantha's concentration like glass shattering. She glanced at the mother, a figure frozen in horror. Every muscle in that woman's body seemed to scream despair, her hands pressed to her face, fingers digging into the skin. Fear hung thick in the air. Somebody call for help. Someone shouted. The urgency cracked like thunder, jolting Samantha from her focus. The crowd surged, some stepping forward, others recoiling. It was a primal force. Bodies swayed. And yet, here she was, kneeling in the eye of the storm, praying, hoping. God, please, she murmured. The words flowed, a desperate invocation woven from the very fibers of her soul. She could feel a warmth, deeper than the sun's rays, wrapping around her. Had she tapped into something real? Would her prayer reach beyond the ordinary? The child's hand twitched beneath hers, a fleeting spark of movement. Samantha's breath hitched. "Stay with me," she repeated. The world sharpened. She was acutely aware of the asphalt beneath her knees, rough and unyielding, yet oddly grounding. The mother's sobs echoed through the tumult, drawing glances from the gathering crowd. Their faces painted with equal parts fear and hope. Samantha could feel their anticipation crackling in the air, every heartbeat synchronized in this moment of potential. But she didn't know if she had the strength. The weight of her own fears threatened to invade her thoughts. What if this failed? What if her prayer went unanswered? She looked back at the child, his little face painted with confusion. "You're going to be okay," she whispered fiercely, clenching her fists. She had to believe it. She had to embrace that flicker of hope for them both. "Just a little longer," she urged, as the boy's eyes sought hers, a tenuous connection forming. It was a fragile moment, yet it felt monumental. Could she be the catalyst? Sirens wailed in the distance, a beacon of hope or a symbol of despair. Fear wrapped its icy fingers around her heart once more. Would she lose this moment? Why was she even here, risking her own heart for a child she did not know? Was it the prayer? The power of faith? Or simply a desperate need to connect amidst the chaos? A sudden rush of wind swept through the crowd, causing a collective shudder. Faces turned skyward, and for a heartbeat, the world slowed. Then darkness arced overhead, shadows twisting and swirling. It felt as though everything shifted. The promise of fear clashed with the spark of potential. The unknown loomed, and every internal alarm screamed for her to step back. Samantha swallowed hard, faced with a choice that felt far bigger than herself. Should she anchor herself in uncertainty or let the tide pull her away? And just as the sirens blared louder, drowning out her thoughts, the child's eyes rolled back. "No. No. Stay with me." She pressed her palm against his forehead, her voice rising above the commotion. In that moment, a surge of energy ignited within her, bright and blinding, radiating hope. What would it do? Was it her? As the crowd gasped in unison, she felt a shift, an electric pulse coursing through her, something she had prayed for, something she had yearned for. But would it be enough? At that very moment, she realized, she had unlocked something. But the door had just begun to creak open, and the shadows beckoned. What lay behind it? The child's body jerked beneath her palm, and Samantha's heart stopped. A fierce wave of desperation coursed through her. No, no, no. She felt the crowd's gasps ripple around them. It was a deafening sound. Every breath felt loaded with dread, thickening the air around her. Then she noticed the flicker. A spark of something in the child's eyes, a spirited glimmer struggling against the dark tide of quieting breaths. Did he see her? Did he hear her? "Come on, little one. Fight." Her voice cracked, and she squeezed his hand tighter. The clammy skin felt alive, each pulse sending a shiver through her. She was losing her grip, and fear roared in her ears. From the periphery, shadows danced in the corners of her vision. They shouldn't be there. She dared not look away from the child, but she could feel them, like dark tendrils curling around the edges of her mind, threatening to pull her into a void. The sirens drew nearer, escalating into a wailing crescendo. The mother's cries joined, fueled by nothing but despair. "Please, someone help." The sheer anguish in her voice sent shockwaves through the crowd, drawing more spectators. Eyes filled with anticipation, some even retreating in fear, and still Samantha knelt, refusing to bow to the heavy air laden with grief. Every ounce of power she could find surged through her fingertips. She drew strength from her own resolve, from the flicker of life beneath her hands. "You're not done yet, you can do this." As if responding to her words, the boy turned his head slightly, and for a split second, their gazes locked. The warmth blossomed again, filling her chest, battling back the relentless tide of panic, but just then, a violent gust swept through the park, whipping hair and fabric, sending shivers down her spine. It felt otherworldly, cold and wrong. People encircled them, whispers buzzing like angry bees. Something is off, someone hissed. The sensation clawed at Samantha's sanity. A cold sweat broke out as she fought against the panic. A flick of movement shot through the air, and she glanced up, the trees towering like giants, dark and unyielding against the pale sky. But the shadows were closer now. They pulsed, an ominous presence creeping towards her. Something shifted in the crowd. She saw fear dance in their eyes as they parted, creating a new path like they were bowing to something unseen. Samantha. A voice called, cutting through the chaos. It was her friend, Mark, thrashing through the throng like a shipwreck survivor. He reached her, breathless. What is happening? She barely had time to answer. All she could do was point to the boy crumpled on the ground. Help me. The words were barely a whisper, but Mark's expression shifted, horror blooming like a dark flower. Just as he knelt beside her, the shadows seemed to scream, a disembodied roar slicing through the cacophony of sirens and cries. The child's eyes snapped wide open, pupils searching for someone. Samantha shivered, feeling the hair on her arms rise as if electrified. We need to do something. She urged Mark, her voice laced with urgency. Yeah, but how? He glanced around, his expression a mixture of concern and awe. I don't know. The shadows swelled, wrapping around the scene like a cloak. Each breath felt charged, an unspoken promise of the chaos to follow. The sirens wailed closer now, a promise of help, yet all she felt was impending dread. The power she had clawed for suddenly felt like a curse, laden with heavy questions. What was happening? What had she unleashed? And then, in the heartbeat of silence that followed the roar, the child's breath hitched. Look! Mark pointed. But it wasn't he, the boy. Samantha gasped as she turned, her heart collapsing in disbelief. A figure loomed behind them, draped in shadows, eyes glowing with an inner flame. What did that presence want? As the figure stepped closer, every instinct screamed for her to run. But she stood frozen, a primal fear rooting her to the ground. The crowd hushed, a collective breath held. What was it? A force of salvation or a harbinger of doom? Samantha's heart thundered. In that moment, the line blurred between rescue and danger. And she couldn't look away. What had she really awakened? The figure stepped forward, pulling the shadows tighter around them like a shroud. Samantha's pulse raced, pounding in her ears. A part of her wanted to scream, to run, but she felt anchored, weighed down by fear and curiosity. Who are you? Mark's voice trembled, breaking the silence. It felt raw and desperate, the kind of question that demanded an answer, yet offered none. The figure's eyes blazed with strange energy, flickering like distant stars. It didn't answer, instead reaching out a hand. A chill raced through Samantha as the air thickened with tension. The crowd shifted nervously, an ocean of whispers washing over them. Stay back. Someone shouted, but no one moved. The fear was palpable, pulsing with the beat of the boy's faint breaths beneath Samantha's hand. Could he feel the danger as much as she did? The boy stirred again, as if responding to the figure's presence. His eyelids fluttered, and for a fleeting moment, something unnameable hung in the balance. Would this be salvation? Or was it an even deeper abyss? The figure drew nearer, darkness coiling like smoke around its limbs. Samantha's instincts screamed for her to protect the child, to pull him away, but her body refused to respond. Was she entranced by whatever dark power radiated from this entity? A sudden cry broke from the mother, anguish slicing through the fog. Please. Don't hurt my baby. She sounded frantic, her sobs punctuated by gasps. Mommy. The boy choked out, his voice barely lifting above a whisper. The energy in the air shifted, a crack of electricity sparking life into the scene. Hold on, sweetheart. The mother cried, reaching out as if she could pull him back from the edge. Please, fight. Please. Samantha felt the weight of every pleading gaze turned towards her. The crowd, once paralyzed with fear, stirred restlessly. Their desperate eyes flicked between the boy, the figure, and her. What were they expecting her to do? Mark kept glancing between Samantha and the shadowy presence. "Samantha, we can't let it touch him," he urged, voice strained with urgency. "I know," she choked, heart racing. She felt the flicker of hope battling against the crushing wave of despair. "We can't give up." But as she spoke, the figure raised its hands slightly, and Samantha felt a jolt of power shift in the atmosphere. The shadows thickened, swirling. Coldness wrapped around her like icy fingers, squeezing her heart. "What do you want?" It slipped from her lips, almost inaudibly. The figure paused, the flickering light within its eyes intensifying. A voice slithered out, smooth as silk yet laced with danger. "Let me in." A chill cascaded down her spine. Was it a promise? A threat? The air crackled with uncertainty, and the whisper of anticipation sent a ripple through the crowd. "No. Don't listen," Mark shouted, desperation rising in his voice as the figure took another step forward. Samantha's breath quickened, her fear colliding with an overwhelming urge to protect the boy. His life teetered on a knife's edge between the figure's shadowy grasp and her trembling hands. "Look at him," she pleaded, gesturing wildly to the child. "He's fighting. We can't let you take him." But the moment hung heavy. The world around her had fallen silent, a frozen frame of tension waiting to snap. She could feel the edges of panic clawing at her insides. The boy's breath faltered a moment longer, then steadied. Samantha leaned closer, meeting his gaze. "You are strong, we are with you." The figure hesitated, as though caught in her words, and for a fleeting second, light shimmered behind the darkness surrounding it. Then, without warning, a scream erupted from the crowd, a sharp and piercing cry that splintered the tension like glass shattering. Something made the ground tremble beneath her. The boy convulsed, and in that instant, it felt like a storm was brewing just out of sight. What would break first, the boy, or the entity that loomed over them? Samantha's heart raced, knowing they stood on the precipice of something far beyond her understanding. Could they pull him back from the edge, or had they stepped into a darkness where even the flicker of hope could be extinguished? And with that thought, the shadows grew darker, swirling with a life of their own, as the crowd gasped collectively, their fear palpable once more. What were they truly facing now? The scream echoed, piercing through the air like a siren in the night. It ignited chaos. People jolted, stepping back, faces twisted with shock and horror. The tension cracked like thunder, and the ground beneath them trembled in resonance. "Mom!" The boy shrieked, a sudden surge of panic in his voice. His little body convulsed, and the shadows danced more furiously around the figure. Samantha's heart slammed against her ribs. They were losing him. "Hold on," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. Could she sound brave when inside she felt like a rag doll about to tear apart? Mark grabbed her arm, his eyes wide. "What do we do? We can't let it take him." The frantic look made Samantha's chest tighten. She couldn't let fear consume her, yet it loomed large. "Please, focus. We need to fight it, together." She willed herself to believe in her words. The boy needed them. The cries of the crowd faded into a blur as she turned all her energy toward the boy. "You're not alone. We're right here." Her voice cracked, laced with fear, but she refused to let it show. The figure paused, its outstretched hand hovering now, chestnut darkness swirling like a tempest. Its piercing eyes flickered, almost uncertain. Was it vulnerable? The boy's breath hitched again. "Help me." His voice was so small, barely a whisper. It sent a shiver down Samantha's spine. The world around her was thick with dread, and yet, she felt something stir inside her, a spark. "Listen to us. Focus on my voice, sweetheart," she urged, forcing her gaze back to his bright, terrified eyes which fought against the shadows that sought to envelop him. In that breath, the shadows shivered, recoiling slightly, a sign of weakness. "Let me in," it spat, its voice tainted with rage. We won't let you. Mark shouted, his voice rising defiantly, breaking through the storm of fear. The crowd shifted again, their emotions spiraling between anxiety and anger. Back! Move away! Someone yelled, but no one seemed to listen. They were paralyzed, sucked into the confrontation like moths to a flame. The boy twitched again, and Samantha felt a grip of desperation tightening around her heart. She pressed her hand to his forehead. His skin felt burning hot, spirit battling against the dark. You can do this. Fight it. A flicker of hope bloomed within her chest. We believe in you. But the figure's laughter rang out, cold and hollow. Believe? Hope. Such weak words, they won't save you. Shadows thickened around it, forming claws that stretched toward the child. No! Samantha screamed, struggling against the force binding her feet to the ground. She lunged forward, propelled by a fierce impulse. The boy's eyes glimmered with determination. I'm not afraid, he breathed, startling everyone. Exactly. She shouted back, heart lifting. He was fighting harder than she realized, a light flickering in the depths of that darkness. In a moment of clarity, something shifted in the atmosphere, a crack of light against the suffocating black. Samantha's chest tightened. Could it really be? The figure reeled back, suddenly vulnerable, its voice twisted in fury. You will regret this. A burst of energy cracked through the air, jolting the ground beneath them. Samantha felt it surge in her veins, in rhythm with the boy's heartbeat. Was this their moment? Every fiber in her being screamed out, urging for balance within the storm. Just then, in the flurry of sudden movement, the boy cried out one last time. Help me. The energy peaked, and the air bristled with impending power. But before Samantha could respond, darkness erupted outward like an explosion, swallowing everything. The crowd gasped, eyes wide, faces painted with terror. And just like that, the world around her blinked out. A void filled the space, and it felt as if time stretched endlessly. Samantha couldn't breathe. What had just happened? Would they fall into the dark, or could they still pull him back? The answers, like light at the end of a long tunnel, seemed out of reach. What lay beyond this shadowy abyss, waiting to be uncovered? The darkness collapsed in on itself, a heavy blanket that stifled every sound. It felt like an eternity. Samantha's heart raced. Was this the end? The sickening fear twisted her gut, silence engulfed them, stretched tight. Shadows swirled, creating an eerie mist that clung to her skin like ice. Where was the boy? Where was Mark? Mark? Her voice trembled as it echoed into the void. Nothing answered, not even a whisper. Panic clawed at her throat. No, no, no. She staggered forward, her feet searching for solid ground. The air felt thick around her, oppressive and void of hope. Then, out of the blackness, she felt a tug in her mind, a faint connection. Fight. It pulsed like a heartbeat, a soft light in a suffocating tunnel. Please, come back, she murmured, tracing the flicker in her thoughts, desperately trying to follow it. The urge to scream coursed through her, but she held it in, focused on the rhythm of the thread that linked her to the child. Suddenly, the darkness vibrated, throbbing with the boy's anguished cries. Each sound resonated like a drumbeat in her ears. Help me. He was still there. But where? Samantha felt her heart align with his cries. She raised her voice. We're coming for you. Hold on. Then, a rush of heat splintered through the darkness. It swirled around her like a tempest, fierce and wild, and she was swept along with it, carried by energy she didn't know was possible. It felt electric, alive. She pushed against it, every fiber of her being reaching out toward that warm light. Mom. She wasn't sure if it was him calling or just the echo of his plea vibrating back to her. Either way, urgency flooded her veins. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Mark. She turned. A faint outline emerged from the darkness, but it wasn't just him. It was more than one figure, rushing towards her. Fear choked her again. Was it the boy? Or another ghoul of despair? Hands grabbed her, pulling her into the flickering light. Familiar faces broke through. Samantha. Mark gasped, fear etched deep in his features. Where's right there? She pointed into the pulse of shadows. We can't lose him. Suddenly, the boy appeared, a fleeting glimpse wrapped in shadows. The claws of darkness reached for him again, but now he stood tall, defiant. I'm not afraid. The word sent shivers down Samantha's spine, filling her with strength. Energy crackled between them, binding them together. We're right here. You're strong. But the darkness roared back defiantly, an ominous echo. You think strength will save you? The voice was mocking, laced with malice. Tendrils shot forward at an alarming speed. Get back! Mark shouted, shielding Samantha as a wall of shadows threatened to overwhelm them. The crowd could only watch as fear morphed into terror, their faces pale under the pressure. Just then, the boy raised his little arms, light sparking at his fingertips. It danced like fireflies, illuminating the shadows for moments, revealing the outlines of twisted faces that gawked back. It was an act of courage, pure and potent. See. You're not alone. Samantha shouted, racing toward him. Time felt like it paused. The world around her quaked with an intangible pulse of fury. But the figure laughed again, a sound filled with ancient pain. Fools. You dare challenge me? A huge crack tore through the darkness, shining like thunder. Samantha's heart leapt, but then dread squeezed it tighter. Was it enough? The boy's light flickered, threatening to wane. Together. We can do this. She screamed, injecting hope into every word. Suddenly, the ground heaved beneath her, instability rolling like sheets of thunder. The shadows rippled, shifting violently. Mom! The boy's voice broke through the turmoil. Time twisted, hanging heavy as Samantha lunged forward but stumbled backward, snagged in the chaos. Everything shimmered, surreal and distorted, and the pulse of fear muffled every sound. She could see the boy, and he locked eyes with her. But just as hope surged anew, a darkness spiraled down, wrapping tightly like chains around her soul, dragging her further from him. As something tore through the chaos, she felt a rift tear open within her, a fissure of fear clawing at her mind. What would become of them now? Would their combined strength pierce through the abyss, or were they doomed to be consumed? The darkness tightened its grip, squeezing the air out of Samantha's lungs. The shadows were alive, slithering around her like vipers, more determined now than ever. Mark! The boy, she screamed, her voice cracking with desperation. Mark's expression twisted with fear. I don't know how long we can hold them off. He stumbled back as a surge of dark energy lashed out, inches from his face. Samantha felt the pulse of the boy's power flicker, weak but there. Each heartbeat matched her own, a tether that she clung to. We just have to hold on a little longer. Suddenly, the boy's voice rose above the chaos, a beacon of light. I want to let you go. The shadows recoiled, as if they sensed the boy's spirit igniting. With that flicker of hope, Samantha felt something shift within her, a rush of courage igniting her spine. Together. She bellowed, charging towards the boy, driven by a primal urge to protect. But the darkness roared back, a wave of malice that threatened to gobble them whole. Mark stepped up beside her, fear transforming into fierce determination. On 3. 1. The shadows thrashed, writhing as they fought to consume them. 2. Samantha squared her shoulders, gripping Mark's hand like a lifeline. 3. Together, they surged forward toward the boy, a wall of unity against the encroaching tendrils. The moment felt electric hope crackling in the air like static. Light burst forth from the boy, igniting shadows around him. Brilliant, vibrant, it was a magnet pulling them closer. Come on. Samantha shouted, each word honed with urgency, we can't let it take him. The boy's glow surged, but the malevolent laughter thickened, swirling between them like a jagged knife. You really think you can defy me? The voice resonated deep, demeaning. You are merely children, lost in your little game. Samantha felt her heart drop. Doubt seeped in, but she shoved it down. They were his hope, innocent and shining, keeping the darkness at bay. The shadows lunged again, snapping at their feet. Mark's grip tightened around her hand. We need to protect him. But even as he spoke, Samantha could see the boy flickering, his light dimming under the relentless assault. We're right here. She shouted, desperation pouring out of her. Fight back. But a dreadful weight surged down, creating pressure in the air, heavy and suffocating. The boy trembled, his courage faltering in the face of such darkness. No. You can't fade. Mark's voice broke, raw and desperate. It struck a chord deep within Samantha, awakening a fierce urgency to act. With every ounce of will, she focused on the boy. Remember us. We want to let you go. The flickering light responded to her call, pulsing rhythmically, syncing with the beat of hope inside her heart. Suddenly, a chilling gust swept through, the darkness howling like a wild beast. Samantha felt gravity shift, the ground beneath her starting to quake. Stay together. She urged, fighting the urge to flee from the unrelenting terror. From the corner of her eye, she saw more figures, faces twisted in agony, their forms shifting, merging into the shadows. They reached toward the boy, hungry and vile. Help me. The boy shouted, anguish radiating as he lifted his arms again, light bursting forth. But it wasn't enough. Samantha Mark's eyes widened, his voice breaking as he turned to her. What if we can't save him? Panic surged in her chest, like a wave crashing, threatening to drown her resolve. But she shook her head. We have to try. We can't give up. She squeezed his hand tightly, grounding herself in the moment. Then came the voice again, darker than before. You will all perish in the shadows. Your hope is futility. Samantha could feel despair clawing at her mind, but she fought it back. Stand firm. She shouted, focusing on the light, igniting the warmth of courage in her heart. But the ground beneath them cracked, the shadows howling louder as tendrils raced toward them. A wave of panic enveloped the surrounding crowd, whispers of dread filling the air. Mark! Samantha screamed, forcing her voice above the chaos. Help me! He nodded. Determination lacing his features. We fight as one. With unison, they raised their voices, calling back to the boy, holding desperately onto the flickering light that connected them. The shadows shuddered, the darkness pulling back slightly, but not enough. What will it take? Samantha thought frantically. What must we do? Time stretched, every second feeling like an eternity, filled with the weight of fear. But also flickers of hope pulsed between them, keeping them standing. Just as the shadows surged again, she took a step forward, the ground shaking violently beneath her. We want to let you take him. The boy looked at her, eyes wide. Help me. He cried again, reaching out. Then, in a flash, a shadow darted forward, faster than she could react. Samantha's heart lurched as the darkness lunged for the boy, ready to pull him away into the depths, but then came a flash of light, a fierce battle cry from the boy. No. What had happened? With the flick of light, shadows faded at the edges as the overwhelming force pressed against them, leaving Samantha gasping in stunned silence. Was this the moment they turned the tide, or were they teetering on the edge of total despair? Mark, what do we do? She whispered, the uncertainty heavy in the air. Keep fighting. He urged, his grip tightening around her hand. Together. But the darkness lurked on the brink, wild and hungry. Would their united front be enough to pierce the heavy veil of shadows, or would they succumb to the relentless grasp? Time was running out. Samantha could feel it in her bones. Hold on. She shouted, clutching the flickering hope within her. The battle wasn't over. The storm was just beginning. What would it consume next? The darkness shrieked as it lashed out violently, tendrils wrapping around Samantha and Mark like iron chains. The weight of despair pressed down, heavy and suffocating. Their breaths turned to sharp gasps, fear clawing at their throats. Keep holding. Mark yelled, desperation crackling in his voice. He needs us. But even as he shouted, his resolve flickered, just like the boy's light. Samantha could feel the shadows drag at her feet, trying to pull her away from the boy. We can't let him go. She cried out, her voice tremoring as panic swelled within her. The boy's glow flickered, drowning in the surrounding blackness. I can't, it's too much. He whimpered, his small form shaking, vulnerable against the chaos swirling around him. Fight! Samantha shouted, the urgency stretching her vocal cords. You have to fight. She could see him struggling, a glimmer of light trapped in the suffocating night. The tendrils lashed again, sharp and quick, just missing Mark. It's coming for him. He warned, eyes wide with terror. What do we do, Samantha? Focus. She urged, reaching deep inside herself, pulling out every ounce of belief. Think of happy things. Think of the sun, of laughter, anything. We need to be the light. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if sensing the shift. For a brief second, she felt the connection strengthen between them. The boy's light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Together. Samantha yelled, feeling a burst of courage rush through her. She blinked hard against the darkness, fueled by the hope radiating from the boy. It was warm, a comforting flame amidst the biting cold. Believe in your power. Mark shouted, voice ringing through the air, forcing the despair back. You're stronger than this. But with each word, the darkness pushed harder, the weight gnawing at their unity. Samantha could see the shadows' hunger, their grotesque faces twisting in ways that made her shiver. Teeth, sharp and jagged, glinted in the sparse light as they snapped dangerously close. Mark, we can't let them take him. She felt her heart race, dread creeping under her skin. The boy's light flickered again, dimming under the relentless assault. A deep, mocking voice slithered through the shadows. You think you can protect him? You'll all become part of the void. Just like the others. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. She looked around. Faces, once filled with hope, twisted into terror, mirroring her own horror. No. She shouted, forcing the word out. We are not like them. She grabbed Mark's arm tighter, fighting the despair trying to creep in. The crowd, those who had gathered to watch this moment, gasped collectively, a wave of disbelief washing over them. The shadows lurked, stirring restlessly as if sensing the fractures in their resolve. Fight. Dig deep. Mark's voice cut through the tension. There was fire behind his eyes. Hope ignited again, this time stronger, a flicker that filled the air with anticipation, pushing back the darkness just an inch. Just for a moment, the boy lifted his chin, defiantly. I won. Stop. I won. Fade. You can do this. Samantha's voice soared, filled with an urgency that surmounted their fear. Together. They all shouted in unison, a desperate harmony against the dark. The shadows screeched, recoiling like they'd been struck. But just as she felt the tide beginning to shift, the ground shook violently. Cracks spiderwebbed in the earth beneath them, and bursts of darkness surged, slamming into them like a wave. Hold on. Mark bellowed, face contorted with effort as he struggled against the pull of the shadows. Fear gripped Samantha's heart like a vice. She had to stay strong. She had to believe. Yet, as the shadows closed in, their malevolent laughter enveloping the space, she fought to hold on to her conviction. I will save you. The boy shouted, eyes ablaze, drawing more light as he pressed forward. But was it enough? Would their strength hold against the overwhelming darkness? Samantha's heart raced, every beat laced with dread. Just a little bit longer. She urged. Suddenly, without warning, the shadows lunged forward, a storm of despair that threatened to swallow them whole. Would they stand strong against the tide, or would the darkness claim them all? The answer lay just beyond their grasp. As hope flickered with the boy's light, the shadows roared louder, drowning out all certainty. What was about to happen? Would they face annihilation, or would their unity shine bright enough to pierce the veil of night? The very air seemed to hold its breath, teetering on the edge of an impossible choice. The ground split open, gaping wide like a ravenous mouth. The shadows danced in anticipation, dark tendrils curling greedily toward Samantha and Mark. Fear clenched tightly around their throats. No. Not like this. Samantha screamed, her voice raw and hoarse. She couldn't let the darkness win. With every ounce of strength, she anchored herself to the boy's flickering light. Come on, we've got to fight harder. Mark grunted, his grip shaking. The shadows nipped at his ankles, trying to drag him away, but he stubbornly held on. The boy gasped, I can feel them, they want me. His voice trembled, vulnerability seeping through. We want to let them take you. Mark shouted fiercely, determination sparking in his eyes. It felt like an echo against the chaos. Samantha took a deep breath. Her heart thundered as she focused on the boy. You have to dig deep, okay? Think of everything you love. But the darkness laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated through the air. Love? Hope? Weakness? It hissed. The shadows twisted, leeching away warmth and light. Samantha felt a shiver run through her. The air thickened, pressing down on her chest, making it harder to breathe. She could see it now, the faces of those who had been lost. Eyes wide with fear, mouths agape in silent screams. Would they join that grim parade? Not us. Not today. Mark shouted again, rage replacing fear. The boy's light dimmed slightly, as doubt flickered across his face. I don't know if I can hold on much longer. Don't say that. Samantha pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of urgency. We're right here. Just keep fighting. The shadows lunged, snaking around their legs, trying to haul them in. Samantha clenched her jaw. We can't let fear control us. We have to believe. Believe. Mark echoed, his voice minefield of emotion, almost pleading, as he fought against the pull. The crowd behind them seemed to hold its breath, eyes wide, whispers bubbling in astonishment and terror. What's happening? A voice broke through the silence. Can they survive? Samantha turned, taking a brief glance at their audience. Faces twisted in apprehension, disbelief radiating from them. She felt their fear mix with her own. We have to show them. We can't be the same as the others. The shadows hissed, an otherworldly sound that chilled her to the bone. They began to pull tighter, pulling her away from the boy. Stop. She screamed. We want tea break. Suddenly, the boy screamed, I want to let you take me. His light flared bright, illuminating the darkness. With a deafening roar, the shadows recoiled. Samantha could feel the air change, warmth began to seep back in, pushing away the icy chill of despair. But then she felt it, a sudden, violent lurch in the earth beneath them. Samantha's heart raced. Was this a reprieve, or just the calm before the storm? The boy stood firm, but the darkness was relentless. You think this will save you? You're still just trapped in a nightmare. The deep voice echoed around them. Samantha's eyes widened in terror. She didn't want to believe that. Together. We are stronger together. She urged, focusing everything on the boy again. We believe in you. Mark joined in, a surge of unity roaring between them. The boy took a step forward. Just then, the ground underfoot cracked open wider, swallowing the light. Hold on. Mark shouted, but it was too late. Shadows surged in a blinding wave, overpowering their connection. What was this darkness? How could they escape? The world twisted, cascading into the depths of despair. The light flickered, and in the tumult, Samantha felt herself begin to slip away. Could they find the strength to fight back? Or would this nightmare consume them all? Cold clutches of darkness enveloped her, dragging her into the abyss. Time was running out. What lay ahead? Hope or despair? Only the shadows knew. Samantha's heart raced as she felt herself slipping further into the darkness. Each breath came harder, fear constricting her throat like a vice. The warmth of the boy's light pulsed in her mind, but it felt so far away now, a distant echo against the heavy cloak of despair. "Stay together," Mark shouted, his voice echoing through the void. His grip on her hand was tight, anchoring her to the flickering light. She couldn't let them fade into the abyss. "Fight!" she cried out, desperate for their connection. "Don't give up." The boy's face flashed before her, his shining eyes scraping against the thick walls of darkness, begging for hope. The shadows coiled around them, tighter and tighter, latching on as if they were afraid of losing their grip. Suddenly, she felt a surge of warmth. It flowed through her, igniting the embers of courage within. "We're not afraid. You can't take us," she yelled, forcing the words through clenched teeth. The shadows wailed, a dissonant chorus that vibrated through the hollow. Mark glanced at her, determination igniting in his eyes. "We can break free. For the boy." In that moment, something unraveled inside Samantha. The fear that had gripped her heart gave way to resolve. She focused on the child's light, the flicker that seemed to grow in the face of the storm. "Remember why we fight," she shouted, her voice breaking the stranglehold of despair. "Hold on. We're coming," Mark echoed, their voices combining like a rallying cry. The shadows quivered, recoiling ever so slightly as if they had been struck. "Join with me. Shine brighter." The boy's voice broke through the chaos, filled with a childlike trust that sparked something deep in Samantha's soul. "Together," she shouted, urging them all. "Every ounce of love, every shred of hope, focus on that." A bright pulse filled the air, and the boy's light flared once more, breaking through the grip of darkness. Samantha felt the shadows quakes under its intensity, and with every heartbeat, every ounce of strength, she pulled at the threads that connected them all, the shimmering ties of friendship, hope, and love. "Now!" Mark yelled, unwavering in his belief. With one last surge, they all focused, channeling their energy toward the boy. A burst of light erupted from within them, blinding and beautiful, sending waves crashing through the shadows. As if hit by a tidal wave, the darkness recoiled, opening an abyss that had threatened to swallow them whole no longer. "Keep pushing." Samantha's voice rang out, unwavering. The light pulsated, stronger with each passing moment. The ground beneath them groaned and cracked, swallowing the shadows, dragging them back into the depths of their despair. The boy's face lit up, beaming with newfound strength and resilience as he stood alongside them, no longer just a victim but a beacon of hope. They held on as the last remnants of darkness were consumed, echoing as it collapsed into silence. Moments later, Samantha gasped, the cold grip of the shadows released. Where are we?" Mark stammered, looking around. As the light faded, they landed on soft grass, surrounded by fresh air and sunlight. The boy stood in front of them, eyes wide, a smile on his face. "You did it, we did it." Relief washed over Samantha. She dropped to her knees, breathless. There they stood, alive, together. The light of hope stretched around them, igniting the dullness of fear, driving it away. And then, it dawned on her, it wasn't just a victory over darkness, but a transformation, a deeper understanding of the power they held within themselves. "I knew we could do it," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. The boy ran to her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Thank you." Samantha hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of his spirit ease her fears away. "Let us go home," Mark said, holding his hand out to the child. "You're safe now." As they walked away, a new day began to unfold, the golden sun stretching across the horizon, promising another chance, another beginning. Samantha felt her heart swell. The shadows had receded, and they had not just found hope. But, more importantly, they had found each other. They had been transformed. Now, with this story reaching its end, there is something important I need you to do. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any upcoming exclusive content that will inspire and motivate you. Smash that like button now to tell the algorithm you love this journey, and you want more. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did this ending mean for you? I want to hear every thought. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this powerful message of hope and transformation. Join us on this incredible journey and be part of our family.